Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jan Gardner, and I thought I would give you some insights into some of the sketchbook ideas and processes that I use in order for me to gain more information for my pieces of work that I work onto eventually onto watercolour paper and canvases and linen. So first of all, I've got some materials here which you will see as being like a Caran d'Ache crayon, oil pastel, dip pen. Got some really nice, a range of lovely sharp pencils. And I think it's important always to look at your subject matter in great detail. I'm just picking out items that I look at because of their intense patterning and shades and marks, which I find thoroughly exciting all the time. And so you can imagine living near the beach, it's quite an ideal situation. So I'm looking at all this fantastic aging of the lines on the shell and the actual shape itself. I'm looking at lovely tones of the stone and the light and dark and the ripples. And in colour I'm looking at this wonderful piece of fading rose, really, I suppose. But I think in that situation, as it is fading, it becomes more static and therefore a really interesting thing to draw. So for starters, I think to get back to a sketchbook idea, I just like to actually use the restrictions almost of a pencil. They really, really do make you look at what you are looking at and transposing those pieces of information onto the paper. This is a decorative piece of foliage, flower, and I'm just enjoying looking at the colour and the shape. So I'm putting down mainly the form in pencil, as you can see. So what I'd look to do now is possibly add some colour. And for me, sketchbooks are all about warm-ups. They're all about looking and feeling you've got something to add information-wise to whatever you are creating. And you know, when you're doing that and when you're in this particular way of working, you know, you can't fail but to forget everything and really just enjoy what you're doing. I'm actually just choosing little linear areas with this gorgeous soft Inktense crayon and just playing, drawing a map of the shapes and bringing in some form and colour to what I see in front of me. There's a gorgeous edge here, a really ripply red edge, and that is for me quite a lot of information at the moment. So I'm going to take myself quite a little thin washy pen and just see what happens to those colours. Oh yes, as they start to dissolve with the water onto the surface. Lovely thick quality cartridge sketchbook here that I'm using. So I'm just literally playing around with some light and some dark and just getting some of those beautiful edges wet and dry, just to suggest some of the glorious natural formations we have in nature in the form of this bud. But just don't think you can beat being in a sketchbook and losing some time into creating a memory It really is about, for me, creating a memory and starting to look at what you have enjoyed so much about this wonderful natural form, and literally just getting some colour in there. There's another gorgeous ridge, this gorgeous deep red rose colour really, which is pretty appropriate, but it's just that beautiful fine linear work of getting close to it. And of course, as a contrast, you've got this, and I'm being quite loose with this. I'm being quite I'm just enjoying putting the colours together. So I think these, you know, I mean, the beauty of a sketchbook and these crayons is they're mobile. You know, you can stop and start anywhere, and that's the beauty of it for me as well. So you're thinking, well, what are you going to do with the rose, Jan? Well, all will become clear when I show you the next sort of stage of what I'm actually doing with the process of finding out more information. I actually think I'll use that stone, I think. So, got a nice shape here again. Get that lovely hard, but it's not actually a hard pencil. It's an HB or a B, which is a really nice combination. I think I'll use it. See, this is naturally getting my arm, my hand, my eye focused on something as familiar as a stone. But what a joy it is. You know, it could actually just start to take the form in one of my pictures of something very precious. I love to link stories to whatever I have in my pictures, and you know, when you go for a certain walk or you were given something precious, it's so important that you have reference to that. For me, I'm talking personally, obviously, but it is so important that that is sort of part of your creativity to being an individual artist. I'm actually really quite interested in how I might develop that, because for me immediately it's lending itself to some ink, and I'm just going to see what happens if I get my Old Faithful, but I have several, as you can imagine, because I can't live without these dip pens. But if I was to look at you know, developing that into something else in the form of, oh, it's not a grey stone anymore, it's something else. I mean, I love the grey, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying for those of you who take experiments. Oh, I'm just loving this, just loving it. So I'm just going to give it a little edge because it does have a containment to it. Little ink pot, mixed up from my own pigments. Now I'm going to be really, really risky and take a bigger brush, but see what happens when I say bigger brush. It's the top of a brush, which actually, for the purposes of working in a sketchbook, it's just quite nice to have. So let's get that little fine brush again. This is just fun, and it's making me think, and it's making me think, it's a pattern, it's mark making, and it's colour. In fact, some of the seascape type pictures I've done, my visits to shores afar and close by, you know, you can never do any harm by really studying the beauty of things just by your feet. the rose that I was using for reference in the lovely stone. So here I'm just going to quickly, I said I might just come back to it and try something. So I'm literally going to do my finale. So I'm just enjoying adding some depth. It's really nice. Really good the way it's added that just lovely depth and layer to that faded rose. And now I shall conclude this video, because what we will do is talk a bit more about what we've developed from sketches. And I wonder if you can spot some of the reference I've used here to put into this composition here. The next part of this is to show a development onto a piece of work which is there in the background. Quite handy time to just show you how I could use these items. I could use another sketch, another part of my sketchbook, which is to do with this piece, and indeed an item on the main piece of work, which is a reference to an old sofa. So this initially has been a sketch that I did, which was on plein air, as they call it, which was west coast of Ireland. Beautiful place, gorgeous memory. So I decided to use that as a starting point, and then, as you can see, develop some ideas from another piece of work, sketchbook idea for the sofa, and then developing the sofa idea. So if I give you a closer look, you can see how natural forms, how items that I've remembered and wanted to store and put into a large piece actually says what I want to say. It's going on a walk, it's using my imagination, it's using all of the things that we love to do when we're artists. So natural forms, going on a walk, recapturing a memory and developing it. Just going to talk you through some of the starting points that I make in sketchbooks. So without any further ado, I'd like to just sort of highlight the fact that the whole content of a sketchbook is to bring to life ideas and to actually enjoy looking at things closely and in your own time and evoking something that is important to you. I love to use actually pen, so you've got a really interesting sort of simple breaking down of shape and form via line. These are objects that can be easily found around the house, that sometimes good to kind of freshen up your hand and eye and reflect on something in a tonal range, or pencil, pen and ink, some precious objects. It's a spiral staircase outside my house, but it's a nice study of linear work. Sketching again, animals, pen and ink, daughter, pencil. This is a pen and ink drawing. Again, a bit of colour with resist and pencil, colour pencil and pen and ink. Always good to have a reference idea going on that's a starting point. It's also really nice to have little jottings in your sketchbook so that you actually literally are making a note of an idea, planning something out in line, making some notes here with some ideas, so that you're actually committing an idea to the actual extent of a book that will keep all those ideas for you. Sketch ideas here, watercolour sketch down the Conway Mountain, really looking at colours and how they flow. Another outside sketch from the mountains down through the vale. Linear work again. Again, another page of notes and ideas, so that you kind of could be just planning something, so you can refer back to it, have a look at an idea you had, a starting point, a plan. And then it stops because you just think, oh, I've just had these in the post, so I'll just try these out, just a new set of watercolours. So you just have a dabble and a play, and it's purely nothing more academic than that, but getting new colours out and just seeing how they flow, which is always fun to do. Memory of sitting in a lady's garden, just getting some ideas of shapes and contrasts, just making a little note here of how I felt about that moment. Another sketch of plans, and I do like to write things down. I do like to sort of include something that I'm thinking as well sometimes. So it's actually just so I can go back to it and remember and respond to what I was thinking. A plan for a little project I was doing with some children. This is an outdoor sketch, so you're out and about washing with a little colour palette that's a really nice transportable one, little metal one that you can take with you. Bit windy, but it was a really nice day out. And again here, using some of my mixed media that I enjoy, with the pastels resisting with inks and with the colour crayons. So it's all about getting the idea down, getting the response down at the moment, in the moment. Little castle turret, beautiful rich foliage. It's the beauty of having a kind of layout of this sort of sketchbook, because it gives you a landscape version, or you can do a portrait version as you work. Another colour combination, resist, drawing with pastel, washing with colours out in the field, so to speak. There's some playing about with some collage work, mark making. Another outdoor sketch with colour and crayon and watercolour. So these are starting points that will really engage me in thinking about how I could develop them, how I could take them further, or I could just leave them there as reference in the sketchbook, which is no bad thing, because you then know you've always got something to go back to. This is again with wash, pastel, pen and ink, and I just found it very engaging and immersing, really. You just get so involved in the techniques and the colours. And some outdoor reference again, going out into exploring the background colours and the lovely responses of somewhere like this. Is for me the evidence of the colours is it's West Coast Scotland, so I really like to get up there, and I like to draw in pencil as well to look at fine detail. These are all very exploratory mark making colour swatches. As you can see, I moved the sketchbooks around from different angles to work on. The whole point of having a sketchbook, because it's your instant sort of note taker, if you like. This is just a page of notes on my colours and how I use the combinations and the way they form and what they mean to me. That's a little random texture page. I was doing some printing and monoprinting onto fabric, just thought I'd have a play with it. Some reference drawing for some projects I've done in the past with children. And this is relevant because this sketchbook contains a starting point here that develops here in the background, which you'll see more about in part 1. Those are the sketches in the sketchbook. Again, nice chunk of perhaps a poem I might like the sound of, and I write it down. More outdoor explorations. I think you can guess this is a West Coast Island development. Just letting you know that it really is about putting ideas onto paper in the form of a book, which really does take you into the zone of what you are doing and developing. So I shall put that to one side now. So thank you for watching, thank you for listening, I hope you've enjoyed it, and thanks to CARN for letting me take part. Thank you.